I actually went to a market asking them to let me be a sponsor for an event, and they didn't have an Indian event that I could sponsor. I first started by creating an Indian cultural event. It's about making sure you're able to keep an open mind, take on feedback, because everyone's opinion comes from a different place. It's really important to set boundaries for yourself, to say what's my priority during that point of the day and really focus on that. Of people who come to the events and they pull you aside on their way out and they come and say, "Isne to ghar ki yaad dila di." Hi, my name is Himanshi. I'm the owner and operator of Foodie Trails and FT Events. I have been lucky enough to travel to Australia many times before I decided to come here as a student. I then met my husband here and we decided to stay on as permanent residents and migrants. I have two wonderful and energetic children, 10 and 7 now. And we're just really enjoying being in a space that allows us to be as Australian as we want to be, but also hold on to our heritage and be as Indian as we want to be.
When and how did you move to Australia?
I first came to Australia in about 2005 as an international student, but I was very lucky that I worked in the tourism industry before that. So I had already been to this wonderful country maybe 10 times before I moved here. And it's been a lovely journey of experiences this whole time. I was born and brought up in Mumbai. I do sometimes break into a Bollywood dance for no particular reason, but my family is Gujarati. My mum is a huge inspiration in the way that she's brought us up. I was also lucky enough to go to boarding school in Rajasthan, to Mayo College, and that has taught me a lot of independence very early in life.
What are your qualifications and what do you do for a living?
I came to Australia as an international student and I did a double master's in accounting and management because I knew I would always be in the business world in some form or the other. I now work in tourism and events. It's something that I've been doing since I was 5 years old because my mum runs a travel agency in India, and from a very young age I always pictured myself in her chair in the office. I was lucky enough to be able to use my education in understanding how to run a business in a new country. So when I first started operating in Australia, my education gave me the base of understanding how to make sure I'm doing the business in the right way. My business is Foodie Trails and FT Events. I run cultural food walks and I run cultural and sporting events. Everything that I do is connected through food and culture because there's no better way to get to know somebody unless you're sitting around a table and sharing food.
What unique event concepts or themes have you developed?
When I first started working in the events space, I actually went to a market asking them to let me be a sponsor for an event, and they didn't have an Indian event that I could sponsor. In turn, they asked me to organize the event, and that's actually where my journey to run cultural events started. I first started by creating an Indian cultural event, which was not connected to any festival, not connected to any celebration day. It was just a reason for people to come together to celebrate the heritage, to learn about a different place, and to eat some delicious food that they may or may not have eaten before, or something that reminds them of home. So that was my journey into starting and doing events here in Melbourne. I had plenty of experience overseas, but it was about starting here in Melbourne. And it was about how you can uniquely think about bringing people from different backgrounds together over something that may or may not be familiar, over something that reminds them of home. So it was really about bringing community together to celebrate their heritage, but also bringing in other Melburnians to learn about the different communities that live amongst them. So from the Indian one, I then started replicating that concept to other cultures. And then I was very fortunate to be incorporated into some sporting events and assisting and consulting in making sure that we got the right cultural mix, we got the right food offering, and we were able to bring a bit of nostalgia but a lot of professionalism in the way that the event was showcased, both to the local as well as to the international audience.
How do you ensure events are inclusive and reflective of diverse communities?
I think people often think of inclusivity in a specific form that is only relevant to them. Inclusivity and diversity means lots of different things to lots of different people. So it's about making sure you are able to keep an open mind, take on feedback, because everyone's opinion comes from a different place, and that feedback can be really critical in shaping the way that you are presenting an event, because you want to be able to make sure that you're offering something that is ticking the boxes for lots of different kinds of people. Somebody might come there for the food, someone might be coming there just for the entertainment, someone might be coming there to cheer on a friend who's starting something new in their community. It's really important that inclusivity and diversity not be looked at through a black and white lens. It's actually a lot of different gray areas that make up the whole.
How do you establish relationship with your local partners?
Partners come in many different forms. Your partner is a food vendor, your partner is the venue provider, your partner is somebody who's doing the AV, but your partner is also the small business that is just starting off and wanting to showcase what their performance type might be, or a new food idea they've had. A partner can be a supplier in many different forms. A partner is also a sponsor, and a partner is also someone from the community bringing people together. So I think keeping partnerships in a broader scope means that your relationships in those partnerships are different in each style. I remember when we started our first event, it was a whole bunch of pins and needles wondering if anyone would turn up or if anyone would sign up as a food vendor to actually come to an event and showcase their business with us. It has taken many years of building trust and relationship and building a brand identity as an organizer and as a festival director for people to now aspire to want to be in our events. There have also been some wonderful partnerships that we've had that have grown so much from the first time they participated at an event that they're too big to be in an event of our size anymore. So that journey is really fun to watch, because you know you helped at some stage to build their business, help them with the experience. It's also a fabulous time when there's a new business that is trying to showcase what they've got and where their journey is at, and how you can mentor, give them advice, help them understand what might work and what might not work. And I think if you are able to talk to your partners at the level that they are at any given point of time, you build relationships that will last for a very long time and will come and support you when you need them to as well.
What strategies do you use to promote events and generate excitement?
I think this is an interesting question on what strategies you would use to, generate interest in an event. When you're at the startup phase, you're thinking about what we can do differently to make people be attracted to come to your event. And when we first started doing our events, there wasn't as much competition in the number of cultural events that were held in Melbourne. Take away now, 5, 7, 10 years, there's so many more options of different cultural events for people to go to and choose to spend their free time at, and choose to spend their afternoon or their evening with their family at. So there's lots of different strategies that you can use to attract different types of people coming. I think what we have done quite successfully over the years is when we were really starting off, we co-branded or built partnerships with people who had a wider reach than us. And that helped us boost or amplify our message more than we could have done by ourselves. In recent years, it's more about keeping the relationship with our growing following, but also using a lot of video content, keeping up with the times of digital and social media, which is ever changing, using that as a strategy, but also trying to get through to the grassroots level. So engaging with international student groups, engaging with community groups, and seeing what opportunities there might be that are mutually beneficial to each of those different groups. Now that's more on the cultural event side of it. When you think of the bigger and the major events and the sporting events, it's a whole different area that you have to consider, because not only are you trying to entice the community-based people to attend these events, but you're also trying to make sure that the wider audience that are used to going to these events are finding themselves in comfortable positions, and the offering is a balance for a wider audience as well. So those ones tend to have a bit more of a mainstream channel of advertising and communication and brand ambassadors, and that attracts because of the sport, not necessarily because of the event.
How do you manage to strike a balance between your professional and family life?
Balancing your professional and family life is something that you actually have to work at, and it doesn't happen by the way. It is okay not to answer the phone if you're spending quality time with the family. If that call is important, it will still be important tomorrow, and most people will understand that you've got priorities at certain times of the day that you deal with. If you think about a CEO in a multinational company and you try to ring him, you don't expect that he will answer the phone just because you've rung them. It's really important to set boundaries for yourself, to say what's my priority during that point of the day, and really focus on that. So when I started my business, the idea was I would be home for my children and I would be able to pick them up from school. My idea of balance is at 3:15 till the next activity time for my kids, I will not do any work, so that my kids have my attention from the time they come home from school until they go to their next activity.
Can you share the highlights of your career journey in Australia and any milestones or challenges you have overcome?
Highlights of my career in Australia. I would probably say when I first started, I'm a first generation migrant. I don't have the network like most other businesses have when they start here. I come from a family of business owners where in India, you start a business, you tell 10 family members, the word of mouth there is exceptional, and you start getting leads in some shape or form or the other, and you get the support. When you're a first generation migrant who's only been an international student selling a product to somebody that is worth thousands of dollars is not as easy as you think it is. So the highlight for me was when I was creating an international tour to India, and I got my first booking for somebody who had met me at a trade show, had a conversation with me, and they went, I want to go to India with you. That was one of the biggest highlights for me at that point. But that stemmed into applying for awards to get credibility. So I was very honored to be part of the IPCA Awards and win one year. I was part of the Small Business Australia Awards, and I was able to get a certification at that point. I think some of the other highlights in my career journey would be when you see the smiling faces of people who come to the events and they pull you aside on their way out and they come and say, "Isne to ghar ki yaad dila di." That's something that is such an emotional high for you that you really feel you've done something that has made a difference to somebody else's life. More than any award or any accolade that you can get. It's that personal feedback that somebody takes a moment to tell you that they enjoyed themselves. That's really the highlight. The challenges are, as I sort of alluded to before, not having a network when you start a new business, not having a full understanding of how to do it right in a new place, but also not understanding, or rather being nervous of, will the vendors support me at this event? Will the people come at the event? You put in your hard work for months on end, you back it up, and you're just waiting there at 11:15 going, is anybody going to come? And it doesn't matter if it's year 1 or year 10, you will still stand nervously at the start of an event, twiddle your thumbs and say, I hope people come and we have a good day.
Looking ahead, what are your aspirations and goals for the future?
Aspirations and goals as far as my events are concerned is that I want to be able to take the opportunity of finding more spaces for cultural performers, various different foods from different parts of the world to be featured in mainstream events. I think there is a huge opportunity for artists, musicians, performers, people of various different backgrounds to bring their art form, their heritage and their culture into more mainstream places for more people to enjoy. But I think it's also an opportunity for all of us that come from various different backgrounds to engage with each other, to learn more about different cultures, different foods, different heritage. And that's what makes Melbourne so wonderfully multicultural.
What advice would you give to other working mothers in Australia who are new migrants based on your own experiences?
If you're coming to Australia as a new migrant and you are working, your work is as important as the work of the other people in your household. I think it's really important to make sure that you find a balance of your work life and your home life that works for everybody, and not just for your work life and your home life that works for everybody else and not you.
How do you give back to the country of your choice, Australia? Or how do you give back to the society?
How do I give back to society? I think what we do well, or what I do well, is being able to support new businesses in their journey, being able to support charities, being able to support neighbors, being able to share our expertise with our school. There's many different avenues for people to give back to the community in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to be monetary, it could be just with time. It doesn't have to be a commercial situation, it could be just for a friend. How you give back to society should be something that satisfies you and doesn't need to be something that is an announcement on a grand scale.
Do you have any regrets?
I wouldn't say necessarily I have any regrets. I would say I could have learned things faster. I could have taken feedback better and not felt bad about it as quickly as I did in my early years. I think that maturity comes with experience and time, and it gives you a certain level of patience that makes you do better in the future. So if you ask me specifically, do I have any regrets? I'd say it was part of my journey, my regrets of being slightly immature, taking feedback as quickly, or not understanding certain aspects of business as quick as I thought I should have.
What is success?
Success can mean lots of things to lots of people in lots of different ways. I think success to me means the time I can spend with the family in the most productive way, and I'm able to support that lifestyle in the best way that makes me happy, but also in the best way that makes me happy doing what I do.
What is happiness?
Happiness is being able to attend a school sports function and cheering on your children. Happiness is being able to sit in the park in the middle of the day because your kid wanted to do that. Happiness is being invited to be a speaker, to share your experience because you've got certain amount of recognition for the work that you've put in and the experience that you're bringing to the table. So happiness doesn't necessarily have to be monetary, it doesn't necessarily have to be family-based. It can be things that make you feel fulfilled in a task that you've done. This is Himanshi Munshaw Luhar and you're watching Good Day India.